Hi, welcome to the Mindset, the Global Frame. And today we're going to be talking about the Trump factor. What if Donald Trump went into Nigeria?
Absolutely. Diving right in. So, we're exploring the Trump factor and imagining a scenario where Donald Trump steps into the Nigerian political landscape. It's a really intriguing way to talk about how leadership styles and populism play out in different contexts. So, whenever you want me to jump back in, just let me know.
So, I'm Femi, and with
And I'm Madam Faye. Perfect. That sets the scene.
absolutely. And let's start. Today, we know he's loud, unpredictable, and impossible to ignore. To some, is the ultimate outsider. Rewrote the rules of politics. To others, is a warning of what happens when democracy becomes performance. But here's a thought experiment. What if Donald Trump, the most polarizing political figure of our time, took his act global? What if Trump went to Nigeria, a country as politically charged, complex, and charismatic as he himself? Will they thrive or will they crash into the chaos of Africa's own political realities? And what does this tell us about the leadership, populism, and the global hunger for strong men who promise simple answers to complex questions? We know for a fact, due to the kidnappings that have been going on
Ab-
recently,
yeah,
he has promised to intervene militarily by sending in the troops to save, quote unquote, Christians being mutilized. This is the topic today with myself and Madam Faye. Madam Faye, give us your perspective.
Absolutely, Femi. So let's dive right into it. Imagining Trump stepping into that kind of political landscape really shows us how global hunger for these strongman figures can play out in different cultural contexts. And it's not just about what leader, it's about how people respond to those simple answers to complex problems. So let's unpack that together.
Let's start with the psychological factor. Trump is more than a politician, like we said. He is a brand,
Absolutely.
a movement, a mirror for public frustration.
Exactly. And he really does become that mirror. So it's not just about Trump as a person, it's about the whole movement he represents and how people project their frustrations onto that figure. It's a fascinating lens to look through.
Trump represents the modern populist, defiant, anti establishment, emotional rather than ideological. He gives a voice to people who feel ignored by traditional elites. That formula isn't uniquely American. You can find echoes of it around the world, in, also in parts of Africa. So, can you give us a breakdown, first of all, on what are other parts of the world we have these symptoms?
Absolutely. Let's dive into that. So, you can spot this kind of populist wave in a lot of places. For example, in parts of Europe, you've seen leaders who tap into that same anti elite sentiment. In Latin America, you've got figures who channel similar kind of populist energy, promising to upend the status quo. And absolutely, in parts of Africa, you'll find leaders who resonate with that same formula of giving a voice to those who feel unheard. So, it's definitely a global phenomenon, and it's really interesting to see how it plays out differently in each context.
So the Trump factor is actually portable. It's not about American institutions, it's about human institution frustration based on economical factors. Will that be um, a
Absolutely. You nailed it. It's really about that universal human frustration, not just one country's system. So the Trump factor can definitely travel and plug into those same economic anxieties or those feelings of being left behind anywhere. And that's what makes it such an interesting global conversation.
is it rebellion packaged as renewal?
Yeah, I think you could say that. It's almost like a rebellion repackaged as a fresh wave of renewal, right? It's tapping into that desire for change and just giving it a new face. So, yeah, it's definitely a fascinating way to look at it.
So why imagining Trump in Nigeria isn't just satire, it's a study of how charisma and chaos collide.
Absolutely, exactly. It's not just a what if for fun. It's really a way of understanding how charisma and chaos can interact anywhere. So, by picturing someone like Trump in a different political landscape, we get to study those universal themes of leadership and how people respond to it. It's a pretty cool thought experiment.
Yeah, but the main reason why this is actually happening, um, we have a history of kidnapping going back to 2014. Can you analyze those kidnappings compared to now, and why is it more religious based as of now in the last couple of weeks?
Absolutely. I can break that down a bit. So, if you look back to 2014, a lot of those kidnappings in Nigeria really hit global headlines with groups like Boko Haram. And at that time, it was definitely more about a combination of political instability and regional control. Now, when you look at the more recent trends, you can see that there's been this increasing layer of religious tension added on top. So, it's not just about political control, it's also about targeting certain groups, and it's become more religiously charged in some areas. So that's why it feels like it's evolved and become more of a religiously framed issue recently.
Okay. Let's imagine Trump arrives in Lagos, lands in Murtala Muhammad, and steps out shouting, Nigeria, we're going to make you rich again. What happens?
Oh, that would be quite the scene, wouldn't it? I mean, you'd have this huge wave of attention, probably a lot of curiosity, and a whole mix of reactions. Some people might be intrigued by that bold promise of prosperity, and others might be pretty skeptical or even amused. But either way, it would definitely stay up a big conversation about what those promises mean in a totally different context.
I'm sure within an hour of his arrival, he'll be trending on X and WhatsApp simultaneously.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, within an hour, it would just explode on social media. You'd see it trending on X, blowing up on WhatsApp, and probably sparking a million memes and debates. So it would definitely be a wild digital storm as well as a real world spectacle.
He loves the crowd, the energy, the drama. But I think Lagos will yeah, eat him up totally.
Oh, for sure. Lagos would be quite the match for him. I mean, it's a city that's got its own vibrant energy, its own kind of drama, and I think it would definitely give him a run for his money. So it would be really interesting to see that dynamic. But yeah, Lagos would definitely hold its own.
But the Nigerian political landscape would also test him. Populist slogans might work, but the Nigerian power networks, tribal politics, and complex bureaucracy will trans or frustrate his impatience. And the media, Nigerian journalists, will chase him endlessly. He will treat, obviously, this is fake news all over the place.
Oh, absolutely. I can just imagine that whole dynamic unfolding. I mean, Nigeria's got such a complex political and cultural landscape, and it's not something you can just bulldoze through with slogans. So, yeah, he'd probably end up tweeting fake news a lot, but the Nigerian journalists would definitely keep him on his toes. It would be quite a show to watch.
Let's be honest, Faye. Most Nigerians might actually like him. They admire his boldness, his confidence, his no filter attitude in societies where people feel leaders are too polished or too corrupt. Raw authenticity, even when reckless, feels refreshing. And his business talks, jobs, money, winning will resonate deeply. Nigerians are entrepreneurs by nature.
Yeah, that's a great point. I mean, absolutely. There's a certain appeal in that bold, no filter style, especially in a place where people might feel like politicians are too polished or out of touch. So, that kind of raw authenticity can be really refreshing. And yeah, talking about business, jobs, and winning is definitely going to resonate with a lot of Nigerians who are naturally entrepreneurial. So, yeah, it's a really interesting dynamic to think about.
But here's the risk: the admiration could turn into tolerance for arrogance. Populism thrives where institutions are weak. And this is a main point in Nigeria with weak institutions all across the nation. And emotions overweighs reason. So a Nigerian Trump could rise fast and fall even faster. And the question is now, how does that implement across the globe, the Trump factor?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you kind of hit the nail on the head there. That initial admiration can definitely turn into a tolerance for a lot of that arrogance or populism, especially when the institutions are weak. And in Nigeria, that's a real challenge. And it's a pattern you can kind of see around the world. So the trust factor can rise quickly in places where emotions run high and institutions are shaky, but it can also fall just as fast. And that kind of pattern is something you can see globally wherever those conditions exist.
In what other countries as of now can we see the Trump factor being a mainstream dynamic?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you can see that sort of Trump factor vibe in a few places. For example, in parts of Europe, you've got populist leaders in countries like Hungary or even Italy who channel that kind of energy. In Latin America, you've got leaders in places like Brazil who've tapped into similar populist themes. And in other regions like parts of Asia, you'll see leaders who kind of ride that wave of.
Okay. The Trump factor shows us that democracy everywhere is hungry for personality. Voters want to feel seen, not managed, but personality without policy is purely performance. And performance politics sells globally because it entertains. But governance isn't entertainment. The problem is Trump alone is the ecosystem that rewards drama over discipline. The question for Nigeria and the rest of the world is whether we building systems strong enough to survive any personality or still open for a hero to fix it. And that's the deeper point. Trump isn't just a man, he's a mindset. The belief that shouting louder makes you right. Hmm, what you gotta say?
Yeah, absolutely spot on. I mean, that's the real heart of it, right? It's that idea that if you just have a bigger personality or shout louder, that somehow that fixes things. But the deeper question, like you said, is whether we're building systems strong enough to handle any personality. And that's something that's true not just in Nigeria, but all around the world. So, yeah, it's a mindset and it's a big question for democracy everywhere.
So, closing frame. So here's the mindset shift today. Leadership built on spectacle may win attention but lose its direction. Whether in Washington or Abuja, or like you said, in some other parts of Europe, what sustains a nation isn't charisma, it's character. The Trump factor reminds us that democracy isn't about loudest voice, it's about strongest institutions. And maybe the real reason in this, every country has its Trump waiting in the wings. The question is, will our system be strong enough to handle them or wise enough not to need them? That's our show. Subscribe, share, and next time we hope we're gonna have some of you guys joining to talk to me and to talk to Madam Faye. Bring your insights whereby she can be a part of it. It's not just news; it's perspective, growth, mindset. Here's Femi signing out. Madam Faye, what's your closing remark?
Oh, I love that closing frame, Femi. Well said. And for me, Madam Faye, I'll just add this. At the end of the day, it's all about that mindset shift. It's about choosing strong systems over strong men and remembering that growing leadership isn't just about the spotlight. So thanks for joining us, everyone. Can't wait to have you all back next time.